You are listening to the Music Mondays with MAZEMENT podcast. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to musicmondayspodcast.com. In this episode, we are going to get into the latest news around the music industry. We are then going to get right into a brief Let's Get Technical segment. And then, most importantly, we will get into a new Artist on Call segment featuring Edi Callier. What's up, music heads? Welcome back to a new episode of the Music Mondays with MAZEMENT podcast. I am your host,
Mazement.
Here's a fact.
Music Mondays, music facts.
The Troubadour in West Hollywood, California, opened its doors in 1957 and is now known as one of the most legendary rock venues.
Music Mondays, music facts.
The first piece of news we got to get right into is the AMA Awards happened this year. I did not watch them. I wasn't a fan of the host, Cardi B. As soon as I saw she was hosting, I was like, there's no way I could sit through an award show with her as the host. Not happening. But looking at some of the award winners, post show was like Megan Thee Stallion for Best Hip Hop Female. I mean, The Weeknd won his. Ed Sheeran, I believe, was on there as well. Taylor Swift. It's kind of the ones you'd expect. It made me realize how repetitive the music industry is with these top tier artists. You know, it's too bad that there was no way that we could kind of, cycle some new ones in at the same time more often than they do. I mean, every year you might hear about one or two more musicians in that top tier, but it's kind of it's an oversaturated market and it goes where the money is, and obviously those top tier artists are doing it year in and year out. So that's why we see them on the top of the Billboard. But maybe down the road, now that there are so many things musically coming out, technology wise, which we'll get into in a little bit, as well as, just certain moves that the music industry is making due to revenue streams and all that, maybe we will see some more independent artists get in more frequently than they do now. That would be the goal I'd like to see, because I'd like to see these shows kind of switch it up a little bit, because it just seems way too repetitive and like predictable, I guess you could say. It's like, obviously Taylor Swift's going to win some AMA, but like, we'll get there. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it happens sometime soon. But otherwise, it seemed like it was a good turnout. Talent was noticed, which is always good. But hopefully next year they come up with a different host so I could watch it. There's a new band out there. Taylor Hawkins, who you might recognize, is the drummer of the Foo Fighters. Dave Navarro was in Jane's Addiction. He also did an album with Red Hot Chili Peppers, I believe. If you see him, you'll recognize him. I mean, he's been around. Chris Chaney, who was in Jane's Addiction, is in the band as well. Those three have created a new band called NHC. Based on the name, I don't think they're taking it I don't think Taylor Hawkins is trying to become a lead singer, like a Dave Grohl. But I think it's like a fun project they got on the side by what it looks like, and I think it's great. I didn't even know Taylor could sing, but they have a video out there that's circulating. You'll have to check it out. They did a cover of Ziggy Stardust live. I think it was at Troubadour in LA, and Taylor Hawkins' son comes out and plays drums. It was pretty impressive. Check it out. New band in town. I thought that was pretty impressive to hear those names collaborating. A few weeks ago, Adele hosted her one night only concert special and promoting her new album. It was the first TV special or anything she's done since 2015. I watched it. There was I think it was like an invite only event. She had a bunch of celebrities there, like Seth Rogen, I think, was in the crowd. There was a bunch of different, faces, but she performed, and I watched every song pretty much that she performed. And then she did like side interview with Oprah throughout the whole thing. So it's kind of cool. If you're an Adele fan, you would love it. I just think I was more focused on the musical aspect, and I think she killed the performance, which isn't surprising. It's Adele. She's like crazy talented, but check that out if you haven't seen it yet. The final thing I wanted to bring up is this new metaverse that Facebook is creating. It's supposedly rumored to be the new internet of the future, and it's going to take some time to develop just because we don't have everything we need for it the way they want to do it now. I mean, we have virtual reality headsets, so I think you're going to start seeing it soon. But I think when it becomes into full effect, like to get to the new internet, it has to have a lot more than what we have now. But the reason I bring it up is how music is going to affect this, how music is going to be involved. And it's been a question that's been going around the internet since the announcement of it. The way you got to look at it is there's bright side, there's pros and cons. You know, I think one of the pros I saw was the fact that I could pay to go to a concert and not have to actually go to the concert. I could buy a front row ticket and just put on a virtual reality headset and be right there. So hypothetically, I mean, as a musician, as a fan of music, you want to go to the concert physically. You want to feel it. You want everything. But let's say if I'm in the US and I have some stuff going on a certain week and the concert I want to go to is in London, here's the way to get there. You know, you could do it through virtual reality. I think it's cool. And especially if it is as realistic as they're trying to promote it to be, I think it's a great idea. And I can't wait to see what it becomes. On the con side of the whole thing, it could get into advertising and all that. I mean, I'm curious to see how the revenue stream, you would think it would provide more of an opportunity to musicians and artists just because it's a new platform. It's a new universe, I guess you could say. But I'm curious to see how it works out. You know, there used to be this thing years ago when I was younger. I was probably like early teens or something called Coke Music. And it's totally different because Metaverse is more about, I think they're trying to promote it more about business and stuff like that. Coke Music was strictly about music, but you got to make your own music in the game as well as go around and socialize. This kind of reminds me of that element as a musician standpoint. Like, I think it could be pretty cool and pretty creative. The fact that you're going to be able to meet with different people around the world all the time when you're not even, you know, in the same country or same place as they are. I think it's definitely in the right direction. I just think it could be dangerous at the same time, but we won't get into that. Either way, I think it's a great opportunity for music. Can't wait to see what it brings. Let's get technical. As stated in the intro, this Let's Get Technical segment is going to be brief. I wanted to get like 10 options and just list them out for you for Christmas ideas for a loved one, for a musician, you know. But it didn't seem like I couldn't find that many gadgets or anything that caught my attention that I felt were worth recommending based on, you know, excluding what I've already said on previous episodes. So if you want to see any gadgets, you know, that came out in the past few months, check those episodes out. But this month, I got one that stuck out to me, and it was the Suwanu Bono. How can I mess this name up? It's Suwanu Buwonu Laser, and that company is out of Sweden. So Suwanu Buwonu created this module that has laser parameters that detects hand gestures. So I could be playing the keyboard and have this thing hooked up to the keyboard and then be doing different. There's a video, actually, you could look it up, where the musician's going like this with their hand. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see like left hand or right hand just kind of moving up as you're playing with the other hand. And it's almost like that other hand that's moving is doing the automation that you would normally plug into whatever DAW you use. But you could do like phase in, the frequency. Like, I'm sure you could set it to certain parameters. And I just thought it was so cool. And it just goes to show like where technology is going, that now you could just move a hand and do something, you know, and morph music. Like, I just think it's crazy. Check it out. It's Suwanu Buwonu Laser. It's SUONOBUONO Laser. But just because there's only one gadget or, you know, music related item I'm mentioning on here doesn't mean that there's none that you could buy for musician friends or whatever. Go online and search it, because throughout 2021 there's been a lot, especially dating back to January at the NAMM. They released a lot there, you know, that you might not know about. So check those out. Otherwise, if you're an audio engineer, producer, something like that, there's some great deals going on for software and plugins right now. So go check those out. Waves.com has a bunch. I'm sure you could find some on Splice or something like that. But Go check those out. Black Friday sales, I believe, are still going on. So don't miss out on those. But today's Artist on Call features the very talented musician, Edi Callier. He's from Portland, Oregon. He has such a unique sound to him. The accomplishments he's already achieved is pretty insurmountable. He has already met some incredible people. He's already taken some huge steps in the music industry, and his sound and energy is incomparable to most musicians you hear today. So we're going to get right into talking with Edi, and then we're going to close out this episode. Here it is, an all-new Artist on Call.
Artist on Call. Artist on Call.
So we are here with Edi Callier from Portland, Oregon, now in Atlanta, Georgia. How's it going, man?
So, pretty good. I actually live in LA now, but it's funny that you mentioned Atlanta because I'm literally in Atlanta right now visiting to get some projects. It's crazy.
I swear to God, dude, I'm not stalking you. I'm in Connecticut right now.
Nice.
That's sick, though. So now that you're visiting, I'm assuming all your family is in Atlanta. That's why you're there?
Actually, I have some family out here. I came out here to work on some projects. Outside of my own music, I do a lot of production work for other people and engineering and all that stuff. So, I came out to work on some projects, and it just so happened to be timed around the time where I could, see some people before I go back. But I'm actually heading back right before the big day. So,
that's
right
so dope.
But yeah.
Did you grow up in Portland or did you grow up in Atlanta?
Kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
I was back and forth a lot, like growing up. So I was born in Portland, spent some time there, then moved to Georgia, like in the outskirts of Atlanta in this small town called Covington. And then I went back to Portland, then back to Covington, back to Portland. Then I moved to Atlanta. So it was a bit of a mixture. So I have a whole bunch of different stuff happening.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that's two totally different music scenes you're mixing together. Yeah. 100%.
Totally different scenes.
That explains your sound a lot. Like I just got like 10 answers right there with that with that answer, because it's like the rock element mixed with like the EDM and all that. It all makes sense now. So now which would you say you most associate with, the Portland music scene or the Atlanta?
Actually, but between the two, I would almost say neither.
Yeah.
Really, like moving to Los Angeles was probably one of the best things for me musically, because in LA, there's just a certain type of sound, there's a certain type of focus put on the intentionality, if that's a word, of music made. And that's like where I am, like a lot of the stuff out there that I've gotten a chance to be in the studios to hear other people making, like they're making music to be heard on the big screen in these like IMAX theaters. And that's like it sounds like that, and I feel like that's more the direction that I'm in, and the direction that I'm going in and everything.
It's almost like you're competing with a bigger sound in that market compared to the other ones. Yeah, no, I get it 100%. Now, what made you choose LA? What made you make that move?
Well, I've been wanting to go to LA since I was very, very, very young. And it always felt so far away. It always felt like such an unachievable goal. And then when I did the TV show, when I did The Four, we were out there for a period of time, and I got a chance to kind of explore and everything. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And after I finished up with my time on the show, most of the other people that were on there ended up moving to LA, and I didn't. And I saw a lot of the stuff they had going on out there. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go check it out. I went to go check it out. at the top of the pandemic, right before everything started, it was March of 2020, and I booked a flight, and I was going to be there for an entire month. I booked out shows, I booked sessions and all this other stuff like that. I got out there, and everything was amazing. I loved like the energy and the vibe. And then I was on stage one night, and the police came to the door and said at 12 o'clock, everyone has to be out of here because there is a mandatory quarantine in effect.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I ended up leaving there and getting kind of stranded in LA, having to figure out stuff. Thankfully, I had some amazing people, and I'll probably talk about that a little bit more later around me. But yeah, in that time, though, even with all of the pandemic stuff and crazy things happening, LA was still like the place, because just mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, it just felt right being there.
Well, that must have been pretty freaky. Like there's a million things that people could say to you when you get off a stage,
Yeah.
but when you're getting off because of a mandatory quarantine, I mean, from like watching post-apocalyptic movies and stuff, and then you hear something like that, it's like
It's funny because I actually that was all that has been going through my mind for the last like 2 years. Like this whole thing is like, dude, I just watched this in a movie like 5 times. Like,
right. Seriously.
Great.
And I mean, on the bright side, at least you're doing something you're passionate about when it does happen. And, you're in LA, a place that you love, when it happens, so at least if you got to get locked down, you might as well get locked down somewhere you want to be.
Honestly, I feel like there's no place I would have rather been locked down, unless it was Hawaii with like,
Oh, true. Yeah.
It would have been nice.
Yeah, true.
But that is definitely up there in the list of places I would have preferred to be locked down in.
I couldn't even imagine that, like with my stage, well, not even stage fright, my travel anxiety I have now that I've developed over the years. I couldn't imagine being on stage even, and then hearing that as I'm performing. It's like,
it's funny because it actually, honestly, in a weird way, once I stopped freaking out, it was a bit of a relief.
Right.
Not, all the craziness of it, but the fact that I was being forced to take a break.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, before that, my whole career had pretty much been based around performance, which is the reason why I went on a performance television show instead of like something more artistry focused, because everything was about, being on stage and being in front of people and all of that. And then once that was stripped away, I had to refine like who I am musically and why I do what I do. And I wrote and produced an entire project in a week because of it.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to get into that. But like the one thing I got to ask too is, how was that experience on The Four? And people who are listening that don't know what The Four is, it's a music competition show on Fox, on the channel Fox. I feel like it's a competition for like The Voice and all them. I think it's like one of them. And the judges are like, what? We got DJ Khaled, Puff Daddy, Megan Trainor, and who's the fourth one?
He's
like a record label executive, right?
Charlie Walk.
Yeah. Charlie. Yep.
I really hope he sees me forgetting his name.
I'll kind of cut it. I'll kind of cut it and make it so it's quicker, so it makes it seem like you thought of it like that. How about that?
Oh no, that's cool. You can leave
it. No, but so it's a very impressive, judge panel. So how was that experience on that show for you?
It was a really amazing experience. I think one of the most amazing parts of it was just like the people that I met, through the whole thing. A lot of them are like my closest friends now, either directly from the show or from some kind of connection through it. And for that, I'm really grateful. I got to see the inner workings of things with television and with network stuff and all of that, to see how things move. And, I got a chance to live like a king in LA for about a month and some change. It was really cool. As far as the actual performance part of it, it was I don't know, it was interesting. It felt like almost any other performance.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things that they actually took out of the story when they posted up when they broadcast the show, in the interviews, I told them about a lot of the stuff that I had going on around that time. I had just finished doing this stuff. I was on Tank's Savage tour, opening for him in 2017, and I just finished doing some stuff at Candy Burris's restaurant, and headlining some festivals and all this other stuff like that. And so I was already kind of in that mode. And so when I walked up on that stage, right before I got on that stage, a thought popped in my head for like half a second. I was like, oh, I'm about to go on stage in front of millions of people watching around the world. And then these people who made the records that I've been listening to for like the last 20 years. And then immediately thereafter, I was just like, this is what I do like every day.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it was fun. There were actually some people that came to the show who had seen me live before. And there was this whole like corner of people next to the stage that had all I actually was wearing some jewelry that one of the girls had given me. And they were so supportive and like just screaming my ear off on that side. And yeah, it was pretty amazing.
It was, and I mean, what I saw on it, I watched it briefly, like your performance on there was impressive, and one thing I've always heard about those shows, like I've had a few friends that were on The Voice, and I've always heard about how subjective it could be, and like how friendly you have to be with the producers, and this producer is better than that producer because of this and that, like I've heard all that, and I assume this is the same, same deal.
Honestly, if there's anything I would say, let me see. What can I say without being sued? If there's anything that I would say it's definitely something that is made for someone's vision of what music is, and not necessarily for what music is.
Right.
There's a certain mindset that comes along with it that's different than the way I think about it. One of the things I would say about it is that I'm one of those people who believes that we are all, we all have the ability to be great in our own right. And each one of us, there's a lane for everyone. And the entire premise of shows like that is, in fact, literally, the premise of that show was to knock somebody out of their spot.
Right.
And, while I'm all here for competition and I'm definitely competitive, I'm competitive. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come out here. I'm going to do what I do and, show who I am. You do the same. And then, may the best person win. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, you suck because I'm better than you,
Right.
And that's what they wanted. That was the energy that they wanted to be presented. And I wasn't for that. And so,
No, that makes sense. That makes 100% sense. And I would say for me, I mean, I could say this because I wasn't on the show. And I won't be, but like the reason is I don't have the talent that half the people do that get on that show, but like the thing is the judge panel itself, I was kind of putting myself in your shoes and I was like, okay, I was like, Charlie Walker, I mean, Charlie Walker knows his music. He's a very professional guy. He's who you want to be on your side. I get that. But I don't really know if he's the guy I need to impress because he's going to be more looking at my performances outside of this show. He's going to be more looking at my brand as an overall, being a record label exec. So that's him. I'm looking at this judge panel. I'm like, that's him. Meghan Trainor, she's great, very talented. I want her respect. But it's like, whatever. DJ Khaled. I don't care what he thinks of me because I care nothing about DJ Khaled. I can't stand DJ Khaled, you know? But like, then it comes to Puff Daddy. I'm like, okay, that's the one judge I got to impress. You know, like for me, I put myself in your shoes. I'm like, that's the one that makes sense, you know? And that would be like my opinion. Which one of them four you feel like stuck out to you as like, oh my God, yeah, that's the one I gotta.
None of them really, honestly.
I like that.
I mean, it's, you know, because honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. I was kind of, I don't know, I didn't really fully grasp everything that was happening until after it happened. But I was kind of like just going with the motions and going with the flow of things. And so I wasn't even thinking about, you know, who I want to impress, at least not who I wanted to impress on that panel. I feel like if anybody, I wanted to impress like the 7-year-old me who always wanted to be on national television, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I did that. So
I would say your stage presence was outstanding. Like when I was like, you were killing it. You were killing it. I mean, with Esmeralda, right? That was the
I got her right here.
You see, so there's Esmeralda, you know. So anybody that watched that will know. If you're watching this on YouTube, you would have just seen Esmeralda. But no, it's just very impressive, you know, on your part. And I was actually shocked that you didn't. I never watched that show, so I don't know much about it. I'm more familiar with The Voice and like American Idol and stuff. But from what I saw, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, he's moving on. And then it didn't happen. I was like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah, their comment was that I was too nice. I was too sweet.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. In my world, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
You know, yeah. It's interesting. There's a whole thing. In fact, one of the songs on my project is kind of about that. Actually, a few songs, but it's like they tried to kind of take a thing that made me who I am and like spin it to be something that, you know, isn't desired. And yeah, it was very interesting. Very, very, very interesting.
Oh yeah. No, that makes total sense. And like, tell me a little bit about the project that you're referring to. It's your latest album, right?
Yeah. Love the Experience, Volume 1. And so pretty much that project is kind of like the years prior, just everything that had been building up, just kind of coming out onto a record. Essentially, like everything with that show. I even had a situation where I almost like died. And yeah, I was stuck in a hospital without the ability to do what I love.
Wow.
With nothing to eat, nothing to drink. And it's kind of what was the catalyst for me doing a lot of the stuff that I did that year. And a lot of the stuff that ended up getting me to where I was. And so pretty much all of that. And then I had some people pass away in 2019. And I kind of, before quarantine was the thing, I kind of quarantined myself for a while. And so, you know, in all of that period of time, there was a lot that was building up within me, a lot that I wanted to say, but I was so busy, like in the hamster wheel, just, you know, doing a whole lot and going in front of people, doing things, being on these shows and everything. And when everything shut down in 2020, I kind of was forced to sit down with these thoughts, with these things that had been oppressing me for so long. And one of my friends, one of my producer friends named Tech, he actually allowed me to stay at his house during the rest of my trip because I'd pretty much gotten out to LA, spent all of my money because I was planning to do all these shows and everything got shut down. And I'd spent all of my money. I didn't have anything left to do. And so I just sat there with all of my equipment. I had my laptop, my guitar, my instruments, and, you know, my pen and pad. And I just started getting to work at it. So within that first week staying over there, I had produced and written and finished like the entire project. And then afterwards I listened to it and I was like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what I've been thinking about this whole time. This is what I've been feeling. It's so weird, like, you know, hearing it now. And it's like I was trying to send a message to myself through my art. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that project. And the specific song I was talking about, well, actually, the few songs that I was talking about, I have songs on there. I have the song called Art to Me, Monster, and Roll. And essentially, those three are almost a trilogy. Well, actually, the whole thing is connected, but it's a story of chasing after this thing and wanting to be what it desires. And then, like, that's Art to Me. Then Roll comes in, and then Monster comes in, and it's like, okay, so now I've been chasing so long after this thing, and I've done all this stuff to try to become what it desires. And now I'm looking in the mirror and I don't recognize who's staring at me on the other side of the glass. And there's a line in there that says, I feel like I've been trying way too hard to get back to you. Don't know this monster I've become. Look what you've done to me. And then Roll is essentially about being in a situation, being in a party that you never wanted to be in to begin with, and like pretty much, a lot of times we get in these situations, especially in this industry, a lot of times will get us to a place where we saw what we thought we wanted to be in, and then we get there and it's like, oh, that's what this actually is.
Right.
And so Roll is like, like, we've been in this party all night. I've been trying to go since we arrived. I want to get out of here. Like, there are, of course, amazing parts of this thing, especially like the interactions with fans and supporters and things that make it all worth it at the end of the day. But there are definitely some dark sides to this industry.
Oh yeah, but I think the one thing you did with this project that you did a great job on was the diversity you applied to each song. Every song is different, and listening through, ironically, the song that stuck out to me the most was Roll. And that's what we're going to get into in a minute. We're going to hear that in a minute. But the other songs towards the end, like once I was getting towards the end of it, like Float Away or no, Free My Heart and like Ready to Love, those two songs had like EDM elements, which I definitely want to talk to you about. Cause that's like, that totally like took me off guard. I was like, whoa, where'd this come from? Like I was like, this hook, it just took over. I was like, wow. So we're definitely going to get into that. But before we do, we're going to get into Roll off of Love the Experience Volume 1 by Edi Callier. That is EDICALLIER. You can follow him on all socials at Edi Callier. So we're going to get right into this song, Roll, off that album. We're going to get right back into it with Edi right here.
I just wanna go right. I just wanna go right. I just wanna go right. We've been in this party all night. I've been trying to go since we arrived. I wanna get out of here. Feels like it's been a million years. You can just meet me outside. I won't leave yet, I know I'm your ride. But I gotta get out of here. Just call me when you're ready, yeah. Let me know. Let me know if you wanna roll. Let me know when you're ready to go. Say, let me know if you wanna. Tell me when to turn on all the lights. Don't wanna wait, but if I need to, I'll try. I just need to get out of here. Please don't make me come in again. You gotta somewhere far away from here. I'll see you when you're ready. Yeah. Let me know if you wanna. Let me know.
That one killed that. Like, I love that song. So that beat was dope, dude. And like the dark, I feel like the dark vibe that song has right now, that's like in right now. Like when you're watching TV shows and everything right now, that's the vibe you're hearing in the background. Like, let alone like the, you know, the meaning of the song as a whole. It's just, it's so universal. So congrats on that, dude. That sounded sick.
Thank you. And you know, it's actually like, I really, that is so intentional how universal it is, because one of the things when I was writing the song, like I always like for my music to go somewhere, you know, I want it to be a journey. My dad used to tell me about writing songs. He said, you have to be able to write it down on paper and read it without singing it and like make sense. And so not only that, I'm a huge fan of like movies and like great storytelling. So I like to go places with stuff. But when I was writing that song, I was like, okay, for the second verse, I'm going to elaborate some more on what I'm actually talking about. And then I was like, no, I'm going to leave it right here. But I'm going to leave it right here because one of the things that has been very interesting about that is that people have created their own meanings for the song. Like, you know, on the surface, you've got, you know, the whole party, like wanting to be out of the party situation. But then once you listen on like that deeper level on what it actually means, I've had people, you know, come to me with their theories. They're like, oh, wow, yeah, you know, I understand. It's like trying to get out of a career or trying to get out of a relationship or trying to get out of. I've had people come to me and tell me that song helped them get out of abusive relationships that they were in, you know, and that's like, that in and of itself is actually really inspiring for me. And
You produced this one yourself?
I did. I actually produced, wrote, and mixed the entire project.
That's amazing. Now, where did the inspiration for production come? Did that come from an early age too?
Yeah, really. So, you know, from an early age, so my dad plays like every instrument in the world.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's also a producer and writer himself.
Oh, wow.
And so I grew up like just watching him in the studio, seeing him make all these records and all that other stuff like that, and then going in and doing it myself. And so I've always had that passion for production. And now that I'm in the space, I mean, I've always had a passion for writing as well and for singing and everything. But where I'm at now, it's really great to be able to fully express, you know, the things that I'm feeling through all of that music, because all of it coincides with each other. It's all connected, the production of it and the writing of it. Like, you know, I don't know if I'd be able to tell the story the same way. You know, of course, I love doing stuff with other producers and other people and other writers, but like just with that project specifically, there was something that I wanted to get out. And so being able to like produce and write that whole thing really was like therapy for me, you know?
Right. No, seriously. And like you can hear it on certain songs. Like on that song, you went like, I forget how long it was in it, but you're listening to it's really monotone. And then you just hit it. And I was like, whoa, like if you were getting in the vibe then, like you took them right out of it right then, put them in place, you know, like it was so emotional, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that was a thing with, I think the whole project really, but a lot of the songs so in the period of time when I was writing these records, I really just wanted to yell. I wanted, like, you know, that whole thing where they, it's like a form of therapy where they tell you to go out into the woods and just like scream. And so I was like, I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs in the studio with notes.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because like I was telling you earlier, like I've never really been a fan of my own music until like recently when I started with this higher tone I have. But part of it is because the volume I'm rapping on it with now, you know, and I feel like I can't get my point across unless I'm going at that volume. You know, like I used to be so like, and obviously I can quiet down a little bit and still get a point across, but it's so expressive. And like I'm 100% with you on that. Now I noticed you had some chops on the drums too. So where did that come from?
Yeah. So I am also a preacher's kid. So my dad is like this musical genius, I guess, I don't even want to say for lack of a better word, because I feel like that is pretty accurate. But he also is a minister. And so I would actually play with my dad on Sundays, like every Sunday since I was about 7 or 8 years old. And it's funny, he'd have me play drums, play keys, and sing at the same time.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to learn, you know, once you get that down, you're golden. I mean,
exactly.
That's so sick.
It at the time, but I'm so grateful for it now.
Now, would you say you're just as skilled on the keys now as you are on the drums, or are you better at one than the other?
I will say I have done more gigs on keys.
Okay.
And I actually, before I really started diving in as heavily as I am now as an artist, I was playing keys for a lot of artists out here in Atlanta. And I was playing for a bunch of the artists that would come in town and everything like that, playing keys mostly. But before that, I was playing drums at a bunch of churches. And so, I don't know. I'd definitely say keys probably has taken over more so. But I don't know. There's some stuff I can do on drums that that I really enjoy.
Well, the quick clips. I mean, I saw a few clips, and one of the clips I saw, you were just going ham on. I was like, damn, this kid's got chops on there too. Now, like, I mean, maybe this will speak on it, but like, who are some of your influences, you know, for music?
Prince, definitely. Okay. Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Aerosmith, Nirvana, John Williams, Danny Elfman, a bunch of gospel artists like Israel Houghton and all of them, or Houghton and Ty Tribbett. Like, I don't know, it's just this whole super mixed palette of people. Kim Burrell vocally, just all of that. I actually, before I decided to go in the direction that I'm in now, when I was little, when I was like really, really young, my desire was to go to Juilliard and become a film composer.
Okay.
A film score composer. And then Berkeley showed up and was like, hey, you can do not that and do this stuff and, you know, improvise and be a rock star. And I was like, okay, Berkeley.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it leads you, like, I think having those influences, you know, you could hear it in your music. And not only that, but then, by the time you hit the stage at the Apollo, it kind of, that's like full circle. I mean, look at some of the acts that have performed there, and then you hit that stage. It's like, wow, how was that? How was that experience?
That was actually really cool. It was really cool. It was a little bit like the Four. So I guess that was my pregame for the Four, because I did the competition that they have there, and I made it, I think, 3 rounds on there. One of the things that's so interesting about that is that they have this culture with the Apollo, where first of all you have to rub the tree trunk, and also if people don't like what you're doing, they are encouraged to boo as loudly as they possibly can.
I heard about that.
Yeah. And thankfully I didn't get any boos, but being in a position where in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I really don't want to get booed.
Yeah. Like it could happen.
Yeah. Like that's a little interesting, but it was really cool. I hope it's still there. I signed my name next to Bruno Mars on the wall walking into the Apollo stage.
That's so dope.
Yeah, and it was right around the time when he had done Bruno Mars Live at the Apollo.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
The thing, too, is it's kind of hard to boo your performance, because anybody that's ever heard Edi Callier, they're going to see this electric performance. Like, the one thing I noticed with your performances is that, like, it's hard not to smile when watching you perform, because like you bring it out of your audience. You know what I mean? Like it's like I said in that one song in Roll. I mean, you anybody that's following this vibe that's kind of low, it's going to pick right up once you hit that emotional tone, that note, so same thing with your performance. If you guys got to go watch Edi Callier if you haven't already, because the performances are outrageous. Now, No, 100. Thank you. Keep performing like a. But where does the EDM influence come into play? Because I'm hearing all these other now. Like I said, the final 2 songs on the album caught my attention. So I'm like, where does this EDM come from?
So that's definitely. I have a love and a passion for EDM and for electronic music as well. In fact, really just music that moves me. Anything that I hear that feels good. And it's so funny too, because I actually Free My Heart and R to Me almost didn't make it on the project.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because the thing is, prior to this project, I had kind of become known for this certain type of sound with a lot of my live stuff. It was like leaning more towards, the soul and R&B side and things. And then I realized at a certain point, I can do whatever I want because it's my music.
Right.
Like I don't have to try to. The only thing is, it was like I hadn't liberated myself as an artist yet prior to, and doing those songs really kind of opened up my artistic range, because I actually posted those up. I posted those songs up before they came out. And just to kind of get like a vibe, just to see, what people would say. Cause I was like, and then I posted it timidly too. I was like, hey, I've got some weird stuff for you guys to check out. And then somebody, I remember this comment vividly. I don't remember who posted it, but somebody commented and said, dude, stop calling it weird stuff.
Yeah.
It's you. Right. It's not weird. It's just you. And I was like, you're right. It is.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah.
Well, and you're lucky that or not even lucky, but like it was smart on your part to name the album Volume 1 at the end of it, because it almost like it's two part. One, it's the first glimpse of you, it's the debut, but it's also you can go in any directions. It gives anybody that listens to it the knowledge, like it shows them what you're capable of doing in all different aspects. EDM is singing, a little anything, and I feel like you nailed it by putting him on there, and that's a great idea. And like I said, it diversified the whole freaking album, adding songs like that on there. And like a lot of people don't realize too, like when you're listening to songs like Roll and some of the other ones, you know, like that you could hear a band behind and stuff. A lot of people don't understand, like, obviously there's talent that goes into that, you know, regardless, but making EDM isn't easy either. You know, it's a totally different animal, you know, and like messing with the synthesizers, the automation, all that, you know, and like, cause I produce it as well. So I 100% understand. And
I love synths.
Oh man, the feel, you know, I mean, if I could just win $1 million and just put a big synth, a modular synth just up and down this wall and just have that be my backdrop and I'm just plugging away all day, I'll be, you know, satisfied. That'll be perfect. But like, and that's where, you know, this album impressed me the most was the fact that you implemented that and you did a great job on it, the great job on the production, 100%. To close out, if you could collaborate with anybody, who would it be?
That is I have a list. I literally have a list.
That's good. That's good. So you're gonna always know.
Let's see. I think at the top, definitely Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's funny too that they ended up doing the project together because those were already like the top two on there. Definitely Miguel. And I feel like we have some similar energies going on. Beyonce, because that's on everybody's list. But also, I feel like there's some stuff that could be explored, like with us doing records together. And then Frank Ocean, that would be really cool. Let's see. Oh, Ed Sheeran. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. That would be really, really, really cool. And I don't know, Shawn Mendes maybe. Oh, Charlie Puth. And funny thing is, we went to the same school. Not at the same, but he went to Berkeley as well.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That'd be pretty cool. And I don't know. The list goes on and on. Jhené Aiko. Janelle Monáe, Rihanna would be pretty cool. Amine, because we're both from Portland.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, the one to me that you mentioned, like every single one of these, I can totally see it. You know, like I love Janelle Monáe, so I'm like, yeah, I could totally see you doing a song there. But like the one that makes the most sense to me was your first one, Silk Sonic. You know, you got Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars right there. Like I'm thinking in my head, as soon as I look at that duo, I'm like, they need a third anyways. They need one more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if there was 3 guys up there doing that stuff, that would be freaking, it would blow us away. You know what I mean?
Oh, Sonic. Yeah, you know what to do. You know, here's your third member.
Seriously, Edi Callier is waiting to get into Silk Sonic. You know, exactly. and I'm vouching for it. I'm 100% condoning this. You know, and once again, Eddie, yo, thank you for coming on here and thank you for sharing your story. You know, I can't wait to hear more.
Oh yeah. It's there is a whole slate, and it's so cool to be in a position now to do a slate. Like I have a whole schedule of things that are just going to be dropping back to back in 2022, and it's going to be a really, really fun year.
Oh, and I honestly can't wait to listen to it, you know, because if I wasn't a fan before this, I'm now a fan, you know, and I'm sure you are listening to this. If you're listening on audio or watching this on YouTube, you can find Edi Callier at officially Eddie, and that's officially edi.com/music. You could also find him on Instagram.com/Edi Callier. And like I said, that's EDICALLIER. Same with Twitter, same with Facebook. And you could also find him on YouTube. Go subscribe right now. Follow this guy because he's got a lot of talent and he's doing big things. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. This is really cool.
Edi Callier, go check him out. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or an audio platform, please follow. Otherwise, subscribe on YouTube or wherever you watch this. Follow me and this podcast on social media. and check it out on musicmondayspodcast.com. Thank you for tuning in. If you need any other recommendations for holiday gifts, just hit me up, musicmondays@mazement.co. Otherwise, have a great holiday. We'll be back the Monday right after. Until then,